이번 주에 조금 특별한 시간으로 돌아왔습니다. 저는 일단 반반 팟캐스트 하프앤하프의 정태웅입니다. 반갑습니다.
And I'm Jeep. Welcome to Half and Half. As you can see, we have 4 people here today. Go ahead, Katrina. You can go next.
All right, I'm Katrina. I'm on Half and Half about once a month, usually.
좋아요. 저는 두 번째 한국어 게스트, 이번 편의 두 번째 한국어 게스트인 디디입니다.
네네. 디디님은 모르는 구독자분들을 위해 설명을 잠깐 드리자면 제가 외국인들을 위해 하는 한국어, 풀 한국어 팟캐스트에 되게 자주 게스트로 도와주시는 한국어 학습 콘텐츠 유튜버시고요. 그리고 지금 제 채널에는 한 달에 한 번씩 뭐 영화나 넷플릭스나 뭐 그런 콘텐츠 리뷰를 같이 하는 시간을 하고 있습니다. 그래서 이번에 프로젝트 헤일 메리 영화가 개봉을 해서 지프가 되게 재밌게 봤나 봐요.
Right. Yeah, so I was actually watching the video with you and Katrina a couple weeks ago. And you mentioned Hail Mary. Like Katrina talked about how she's like a huge fan of the book, has read it many times. And that got me thinking, oh, we should do another like fun review episode because it's a big popular movie right now. And then I was also thinking about, like, I watch Didi and you talk, or just Didi by herself all the time. And I think, like, you've done a couple recent movie reviews. Like, you talked about Patagonia, and then there was, like, one other movie, the Stranded on the Moon. What's it called?
김치 표류기.
Yeah, that's the Korean name. I can't remember the English title. It's Survivor on the Moon? What is it? Anyway. So you've done a couple movie reviews, and I was like, oh man, if we bring Didi here, we can have a good 4-way discussion about the movie and the book itself and all that stuff. I thought it would be interesting. So, yeah.
맞습니다. 파타고니아가 아니고 부고니아입니다.
Oh, Pugonia, my mistake. So actually, I haven't watched that episode yet because I haven't seen the movie, and I want to see the movie first before I have spoilers, and then I'll watch your episode about that. So.
좋아요.
Yeah.
네, 오케이, 좋습니다. 그래서 일단 프로젝트 헤일 메리 얘기를 우리 하프앤하프에서 처음 꺼낸 게 카트리나랑 얘기한 거였어요. 그래서 카트리나는 근데 책을 너무 재밌게 읽어서 너무 좋아해서 영화가 나오면 안 보겠다 그랬었거든요. 네, 그래서 안 봤죠.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
앞으로도 계속 안 볼 건가요?
I'm pretty sure I won't watch it. I'm afraid that it'll ruin the pictures I have in my head. Like, if it doesn't match how I imagined it, then I'm afraid that I'll like it less, and I don't want to like it less.
좋아요. 그래도 그 큰 틀의 이야기는 같은 거죠.
Probably. So I think the author of the book also helped write the movie. So I'm pretty sure that it's a good representation. Like, if he's happy with it, it's probably good.
Yeah.
오케이, 좋습니다. 네.
Yeah, and that's like one of the reasons I thought this discussion would be interesting is because Katrina said she hasn't and probably won't watch the movie. I was like, oh, that makes an interesting like way we can talk about it. Different versions of it we've seen. I'm kind of curious, Didi, have you seen the movie? Have you read the book? And like, which versions of it have you seen or read?
저는 영화만 봤어요. 책으로는 아예 본 적이 없어요.
Okay.
북 커버도 본 적 없어요.
Okay. So for me, I'm not I don't read very well. I'm a very slow reader. I don't read a lot of books. But I did listen to the audiobook of Project Hail Mary first. Me and my wife on a road trip, we listened to it. And then, several months later when the movie came out, we watched it together. And then for Andy Weir, the author's previous, I don't know how many books he's written, but I did read The Martian. Yeah, I read The Martian and I watched the movie in that order also. So I'm curious about you guys, like, which books or movies did you read or see?
Okay.
So, yeah, Katrina, how about you with The Martian?
I just watched the movie. I didn't know about the author at that point, and I really enjoyed the movie. But then I didn't bother reading the book.
Okay.
And then I read the second book that he did, Artemis.
Okay. I
and
haven't
it hasn't been-
read that one.
Yeah, it hasn't been made into a movie yet.
Okay.
They're talking about maybe making a movie.
오, 그것도 재밌어요?
Yeah, it's fun. It's not. I didn't find it as good as Hail Mary. It's more, I guess, light-hearted, like less serious. But it's fun.
Okay. How about you, Didi, with The Martian, the movie or the book?
저는 마션 영화 1편만 봤는데 책은 안 봤어요. 근데 저도 책을 별로 많이 안 읽어서 특히 소설 많이 안 읽거든요. 그래서 책이랑 영화랑 둘 다 본 게 없어요. 하나도 없어요.
I
지금까지.
see.
음.
Okay. And then you, Taeyong?
저도 마션이랑 헤일메리 책은 둘 다 안 읽었거든요.
Okay.
예, 일단 좀 긴 SF 소설이 좀 빡세요.
무서워요.
좀 읽기가 그렇게 쉽지는 않고 제 누나가 그 프로젝트 헤일메리를 영화로 보고 너무 좋아서 그래서 책을 그냥 아무따 그냥 사서 그 읽기 시작했다는데 누나가 원래 좀 소설을 책을 되게 많이 읽거든요. 근데 이거를 나는 책으로 먼저 읽었으면 좀 따라가기 힘들었을 것 같다, 좀 어려웠을 것 같다 이렇게 얘기를 하더라고요.
Right.
아무래도 SF 장편 소설이 좀 쉽지는 않으니까.
Right.
Yeah.
네네. 아무튼 그래서 저도 마션 헤일메리 둘 다 영어로만 봤습니다.
Are both translated to Korean, the books?
네네.
And the middle one too, Artemis, do you know if it's been translated?
그거는 사실 제가 존재도 몰랐는데. 근데 아마 나와 있을 것 같은데요. 그 정도 작가 소설이면.
Right.
I see.
그게 뭐예요? 시즌 2예요?
아닐 거예요. 완전히 다른
다른
거
거예요.
같은데.
Yeah, so there's 3 separate books. I don't think maybe they're in the same universe, but they're not related to each other directly. They're just all 3 sci-fi books, I think. The second one's sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
아르테미스 뭔가 느낌이 달에 관련된 영화 책 같은데.
So it's on the moon. So humanity has populated or like colonized the moon, and the main character is sort of another typical Andy Weir nerd who has an adventure. Yeah.
좋다.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I like about The Martian and about Project Hail Mary is that the main character has like this sort of like nonchalant, just like very like simple, like, I'm an everyman kind of guy attitude. And it like comes through really well. Like the humor is very simple and easy. And even though this like the science like is kind of complicated, it is wrapped in this nice, easy to swallow pill. Like you could just say, okay, I get it. So.
근데 그 논셜런트 그 단어가 무슨 뜻이에요?
Nonchalant, very relaxed, very like easygoing, like not very rigorous or not very strict, like just very like simple and easy is kind of nonchalant.
넌셜런.
Yeah, nonchalant. It probably comes from French. I don't know.
좋습니다.
So I do want to talk about spoilers, but I think we can put those further into the episode. We could start off with non-spoiler type stuff, and then get into spoilers later on. Does that sound okay?
좋아요,
네네.
좋아요.
Okay. So yeah, what can we say? Okay, so for people who don't know Project Hail Mary, the basic premise, the most basic premise, is the sun is dying. Like the sun is fading; it's getting colder, and the main character is on a mission to fix that problem. He has to travel very far away and fix this problem. He doesn't know how to do it. It's sort of along the journey, he's trying to figure out how are we going to do this using science. That's the basic story, I think. Yeah, and I guess the other basic part of it is just that he has what's the word? he's lost his memory basically. So as he's going through solving this problem, he's still trying to remember who he is, what he knows, and what the problem even is or how he should fix it. He's trying to remember.
그쵸. 과학자가 메인 캐릭터 그 주인공이죠. 주인공이 있고 라이언 고슬링 그 할리우드 영화의 상징 같은 배우가 메인 캐릭터고요. 그 주인공이 이제 그 세계관에서는 태양이 점점 차가워진다라는 그런 문제가 있어가지고 그걸 고치지 않으면 인간은 이제 멸종되니까 그걸 고치려고 그 과학자가 우주에 가서 고치는 뭔가 문제를 해결하고 하는 이야기예요. 근데 중요한 게 그 과학자가 기억이 없어요. 그래서 그 고쳐가면서 점점 기억을 찾아가는 그런 이야기네요.
좋습니다. 그 책에 나온 것도 똑같나요?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. You should talk about the book. You've read it multiple times. So.
So the book opens. I don't know how the movie opens, but the book opens with the main character being asked a question by the computer, like what is 2 + 2,
어.
and he's trying to answer. He knows the answer, but he's unable to speak, and so the computer tells him he's wrong, just over and over, until he actually manages to say the answer in a comprehensible way. And so that's like the first scene is him waking up. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know what the situation is. He doesn't know why, why he's in a room that's round in a bed with wires and tubes and things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it does start the same way in the movie, but of course, books tend to be like longer in terms of like all the content that's in them. The movie is shorter, so it's very compressed. Like the thing of, like you said, he's like he can't move or speak at all. Like in the movie, they get past that in the first 5 seconds.
Right.
They have to move on. Like the things
Yeah.
need to keep happening.
Yeah.
But it does start within that same scene where it's sort of like a cold open, we call it, where like the audience doesn't know what's happening. It's just like things are happening. So yeah, that's where it starts.
영화도 거의 똑같아요. 거의. 예, 영화는 근데 그 라이언 고슬링이 처음에 약간 그 약간 시체 가방처럼 그 가방 안에 들어 있거든요. 이렇게.
Yeah, he's kind of like
그래서
zipped in like a hoodie, kind of like almost like body bag.
맞아요. 그래서 그 지퍼를 열고 그 열면서 질문이 들리나 아마 그럴 거예요.
Yeah, I think they
그러면서-
ask what his name
네.
is or something like that. Yeah.
맞아요. 뭐 그 2+2가 영화에도 그대로 나올 걸요 아마.
I don't think they said that. I think they just said "What's your name" or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Okay, so I have a question about the movie.
Yeah.
Because in the book, you get to hear his thoughts, his like internal monologue a lot. How do they do that in the movie?
Yes, there's no narrator. there's no narrator. He talks to himself because he is
Okay.
alone at first, and so he's like, what am I gonna do? Oh no, what should I do? So
Right.
there's that sort of thing, but there's no like actual inner monologue kind of
Okay.
concept. So
Because in the book, the monologue is so good. Like the
Yeah.
inner monologue is just so funny.
어떤 식으로 또 많이 얘기를 하냐면 그레이스가 나중에 그 조사한 거를 지구에 보낼 걸 생각해서 뭐 오늘은 이런 일이 있었고 이런 걸 발견했고 외계인 친구를 만났어요 이런 것들을 그 기록하듯이 카메라에
아.
대고 이야기를 많이 해요.
맞아요. 브이로그처럼.
that's true.
네.
You're right. Yeah, there is a
네.
little bit of that. Yeah, I forgot
그래서
about
이제 그걸로 대체를 잘 했어요.
Smart. Yeah, in the book, there's almost none of that.
that. Right. Yeah. So that's a way to get a little bit of inner monologue in movie format is just okay,
Yeah.
it's vlog where he talks about what he's doing. So yeah, you're right. Totally.
네. 저는 좀 오프 토픽은 아닌가? 그 예고편을 하나를 보긴 했거든요.
What does that mean? 예고편.
예고편 그 영화가 나올 때 이 영화가 어떤 건지 광고하는 짧은
Oh,
Clip.
right.
비예요.
It's the
Okay.
trailer.
Yeah.
그렇죠. 근데 그 예고편에 아마 그 라이언 고슬링 그레이스가 카메라에 대고 제가 외계인 친구를 만났는데요. 뭐 이런 그 카메라에 대고 얘기하는 장면이 짧게 예고편에 나왔던 것 같거든요. 근데 그래서 저는 그거를 보고 약간 마션 때처럼 그 우주선이랑 지구가 그 통신이 가능해서 그 지구에 있는 사람들한테 그레이스가 바로 저 외계인 만났는데요 이런 일이 있었어요. 그렇게 해서 막 그러면은 제가 예고편만 보고 생각은 아 그러면은 그 지구에 있는 사람들이 그 외계인을 뭐 죽여라 뭐 지배해라 뭐 이렇게 하면서 뭐 싸움이 뭐 벌어지나 이런 추측을 했거든요.
Right, right.
예, 근데 알고 보니 지구랑 완전히 연락이 안 되더라고요.
Right. He's like 11 or 12 light years away at the point in where the movie or the book starts.
Right.
그렇습니다.
Yeah, so he's too far to actually have a live, interactive discussion with anybody on Earth. But when you're watching the trailer, that's not obvious, which I think they're maybe intentionally making that unclear so that there's some surprises going into the movie. But yeah. Yeah, totally. So I guess so I've listened to the audiobook and I've watched the movie, so I can compare the two a little bit in terms of storytelling and stuff. I think they're very similar in a lot of ways. Sort of like Katrina was saying, she's like, kind of, I don't know. I guess you're saying you're afraid that your imagination of what you got from the books will be different from the movie, and that'll just feel like too jarring. I had that fear going into it. I was like, oh man, I don't know how they're gonna do this. Like, it seems like such a strange book to adapt. But I thought they actually did a very, very good job. I was surprised with how well they did. But there is of course like some differences. One of the things, so there's between the two, I think I like the book more, but I did like the movie a lot. But one of the things that the movie I think does better in some ways is it can, of course, because it's a movie, it can visually show what's happening outside of the main character, where the book is it's all inside the character's head, everything that he's thinking and seeing. And so there's sometimes where, for example, he's on a spaceship, right? Things are happening to the spaceship. There's certain action scenes where things are happening. And in the book, he's like, I don't know what's happening. That's literally his character's I don't know what's happening. He's looking at the control panel, trying to understand what's happening, but he's just making guesses. I think maybe this, or maybe that, or maybe this. In the movie, they just show what's happening. And you're like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. And I think it makes the action scenes much more clear and understandable and more fun in some ways. So, yeah. But they're different perspectives. They're very different perspectives. So.
그 영화가 저는 미술이 되게 좋았어요. 그래서 상상한 게 더 예쁠 수도 있지만 보기만 해도 그런 풍경이나 우주가 엄청 잘 만들어졌다는 생각을 했어요. 근데 카트리나 님이 상상을 많이 하셨다고 했는데 그 로키가 나오잖아요. 외계인. 맞죠?
Yeah.
이름 로키죠? 그
Yeah.
로키의 생김새, 어떻게 생겼는지가 책에 뭐라고 묘사되어 있어요? 그 약간 실제로 봤을 때는 개처럼 보이거든요. 그렇게 설명이 되어 있었어요?
Yeah, so in the book, the Grace, the main character, his first thought is spider rather than crab. But he also describes in quite a lot of detail, how many arms and legs and how many fingers on the opposing thumb versus the two fingers, and the surfaces and colors, and yeah. So he's described it in a lot of detail.
이것도 설명돼 있어요?
Yeah, I don't remember if they do thumbs down in the book, but they definitely do different hand gestures and things.
Yeah.
They do this gesture.
Jazz
they
hands.
call it the jazz hands. Is what they call it in the book and in the movie.
핸즈구나.
Yeah.
Jazz hands.
이게
아니,
되게
그래서-
유명했잖아요. 영화.
예,
그래서.
이거 안 나와요 책에?
I don't
No,
think
they don't do
so.
a thumbs down. They do a thumbs up, and they do wait, a one finger hang on, wait, but they don't do a thumbs down.
아 그렇구나. 되게 뭔가 좀 되게 뭐라 해야 되지? 좀 되게 기억이 잘 남는 장면으로 써지거든요. 이게.
Right.
맞아.
그러니까 그게 그 그레이스가 이 막 잘했다 뭐 굿 최고 약간 이런 표현으로 그 엄지를 위로 올려줘요.
Right.
근데 로키는 그거를 계속 그 아래쪽으로 해요.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like a misunderstanding, but it's played as a joke where Rocky doesn't know the difference between the two, and Grace is just like, whatever, I'll just let it be.
that's cool. Yeah. So in the book, they do crosstalk. like the whole time.
아, 그쵸, 그쵸.
Grace speaks in English and Rocky speaks in his language. How do they do that in the movie?
아,
So it is the same. Maybe you can describe it a little bit, like Didi or Taeung Sim, but yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
그러니까 책에서는 로키가 하는 말이 영어로 적혀 있어요. 적혀 있어요. 뭐라고 하는지.
Yeah.
아, 그래요? 영화에서는 그냥 블블블블블 이렇게 나와요. 그래서 보고 있는 사람도 처음에는 이해 못하고 그레이스도 처음엔 몰라요. 그러니까 서로 계속 그 언어를 하나씩 맞춰가면서 배우는 과정이 있는데
Yeah.
네, 그래서 로키가 무슨 말 하는지는 끝까지 모르죠. 저희는 모르죠.
Oh, so in the book, when Grace doesn't understand, it's just notes. It's like notes. And then when he understands, it becomes English. But it's written in a different font, so you can tell that he's hearing the language, but he's understanding the meaning.
이해해요.
And
So it's funny because I haven't read the book, so I didn't know that. But in the audiobook, when you listen to it, whenever Rocky speaks and he doesn't understand, he goes boo 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 boo. Like it just plays musical notes in the audio.
아 진짜요? 우와.
Yeah.
오디오북에 그런 것도 되는구나.
That's so funny. So it actually writes musical notes in the book?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like that idea.
아이디어 좋다 진짜.
우와. 좀 더 얘기를 하자면 그 그레이스가 처음에 로키랑 소통을 할 수 없을 때 막 이것저것 막 바디랭귀지도 쓰고 막 이렇게 하면 뭐 인형극처럼 하기도 하면서 그 계속 로키가 내는 소리를 녹음을 해요. 네, 그래서 이 소리는 이 단어구나 할 때마다 그 노트북에 타이핑을 해서 그 소리에 단어를 붙이거든요.
Yeah.
그래서 그 다음에는 그 이후에는 로키가 소리를 내면 자동으로 번역을 하게 해주는 거죠.
아, 네. 처음엔 번역기를 만들죠.
right.
네.
Yes. So they have all that in the book. It goes a lot more detail in the book, and there's a big section on it. But basically, so on the spaceship, he has every kind of software he could ever need because they planned ahead. They just said, "Here, have every software you could possibly want." And he knew that there was some kind of sound recording and not translation, but like recording software. Analysis software that he combines a few pieces of software together on the PC to like record it, type in the word, and then do live translations. And through as that progresses, he keeps kind of updating and changing the software to make it more useful and more like on the fly useful. But yeah, in the movie, sort of the same thing. In the movie, they don't sort of explain all that. He just shows up with a laptop and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna, record and type this in, and it'll display the words on the screen. And then a few scenes later in the movie, he says, you know what? I need to take the text on the screen and make a text to speech so that I can hear, so I don't have to keep reading the screen. And so they have a scene where he goes through different voices, like Hollywood voice actors that are going to be the voice of Rocky. And finally he settles on one voice. He's like, oh, okay, I like this voice. And then for the rest of the movie, whenever Rocky talks, you just hear that voice. So for the audience's purposes, you just hear the voice,
So in the movie, he never actually starts understanding Rocky. You just use the voice synthesis.
그레이스가 로키의 목소리를 선택한 다음에 그때부터는 자동 번역으로 들려요. 그리고 마지막쯤에는 그냥 그런 번역기 없이도 서로 언어를 배운 거죠. 그래서 서로 이해해요. 마지막에는.
That's right. Yeah, but by the very end in the final scenes, he understands without using the translation devices. And I think that even before that, it's sort of implied because he's not the translation computer isn't always nearby. It isn't like the sound is coming from the scene itself. It's more just played over the top for the audience's benefit. But it does seem like he's starting to understand without the translation device at a certain point. And he only goes back to it when new words come up every once in a while. So, yeah.
진짜 과학자라서 똑똑한가 봐요. 그렇게 언어를 빨리 배우잖아요.
그러니까
Right.
저 부럽던데.
So actually, I love that the book and the movie use this concept of crosstalk because of course that's what this whole podcast is about, which is super cool. But the one complaint, maybe one complaint I feel like I have about the book and the movie is I feel like the the depiction of how somebody learns a language feels like very, very fake in the book. Like how quickly and I guess like how smoothly he learns some completely alien language just seems like so not realistic. So I don't know if Andy Weir has actually ever learned another language before because it seems like he might be out of his experience on. Yeah. I don't know. It looks like you're nodding in agreement, Katrina, but maybe it's just me.
Very much, yeah. I mean, it's hard enough to learn Korean. I would not be able to learn an alien language in a few weeks.
Right.
맞아. 그게 좀 놓친 부분일 수도 있겠네요. 작가가 놓친 부분.
Yeah.
아 근데 그 또 몰라요. 그러니까 한국 사람들이랑 살면서 갑자기 외계인 언어 배우는 거랑 그 우주선에 달랑 외계인 한 명이랑만 있으면서 계속 그거랑만 그 소통을
24시간.
하는 거랑 그쵸 그거랑 좀 많이 다르지 않을까요? 그렇게 할 수도 있지 않을까요?
완전 몰입 환경이긴 해요.
그쵸.
이머전이긴 해요.
You're saying like maybe if he was so the only person he can talk to is this alien and so he's immersed in it and so maybe he's learning so much quicker. I guess so. It still doesn't feel realistic to me. Like I think it's fine because it's fiction. It doesn't have to be completely realistic. It feels a little off.
그리고 또
Yeah.
그 소통이 안 되면 내가 죽잖아요. 그러니까 살기 위해 그리고
Right.
인류를 위해
It's life or death.
네, 그러니까요. 그러면 아마 빨리 배우지 않을까 싶은데 그 두 개의 조건이 다 돼서.
Yeah, or maybe he's just a genius. I mean, so in the story he's a biologist, I guess, is his main scientific role. If he was like
Molecular biologist.
if he was like a linguist, I would be like, okay, all right. But if like in the story he was like from India where he already speaks 5 languages, I'd be like, okay, I get it. So as an American, I don't know about that.
혹시 영화 중에 콘택트라는 영화 알아요? 콘택트?
I love that movie. Yeah.
그 영화는 영화 2시간 내내 이해하려고 영화 다 쓰잖아요. 외계인 언어 뭔가 이렇게 공부하고. 근데 헤일 메리는 그냥 한 번에 언어 빨리 넘어가고 대화로 하니까 확실히 빨리 배운 것 같아요. 그 영화에서는.
콘택트가
Arrival?
Arrival이에요. 영어 제목은 Arrival.
아 그래요. 한국어 제목 콘택트였던 것 같아요.
Oh, Contact is a different movie here.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
an old
다른 영화.
movie from like the 90s, I think, named Contact that was also very good.
네, 그게 영어 이름은 Arrival입니다.
왜 한국어 이름을 영어로 다르게 지어서
그러니까요.
콘택트.
I see. In Contact, also they do translation, but it's like they receive a radio broadcast and they like translate it by writing into like a written language, and then there's all these instructions. But you're right. Arrival has like a huge thing about communication. That's like the whole movie.
그렇죠.
So
Arrival. 디디님은 Arrival 재밌게 봤습니까?
이거
네.
학교
얘기하세요.
학교 과제 때문에 봤는데 나름 재밌게 봤어요. 나름 좀 뭐랄까 특이하잖아요. 여기서는 외계인을 상상한 모습이 막 문어나 그런 평소에 많은 사람들이 생각하는 그런 전형적인 클래식 외계인이 아니라 좀 특이한 모습으로 만들어낸 게 흥미로웠어요.
카트리나 또 봤어요 이거?
Yeah, I really liked it. I felt like it did a much better job in terms of linguistics than Hail Mary Project. I think they probably consulted with linguists to make the movie.
제가 아까 했던 이유가 저 이거는 원작을 읽었습니다. Arrival은
wow.
그 테드 창 쓴 소설이거든요.
That's
원작이.
right.
네.
I
둘다
didn't
보신
read the
거예요,
book.
네.
태용 쌤은 둘 다 보신 거예요? 그럼?
네네. 저는 원작 소설을 옛날에 읽었고
어.
그 이후에 영화를 봤어요.
어땠나요? 상상이랑 달랐나요?
영화가 좀 달라요 소설이랑. 네, 그리고 뭔가 좀 메시지, 좀 주제 이런 것도 좀 바뀐 것 같아요. 그 제목도 완전히 달라요. 그게 근데 좀 흥미로운 스토리인데 그 소설도 원작 영어 제목이랑 한국어 번역 제목이 느낌이 달라요.
So
그러니까
what's the Korean title? If you can remember.
당신 인생의 이야기인가?
Oh wow, that is different.
The story of
당신
your life.
인생의 네네 당신 인생의 이야기인데 한국어로 당신 인생의 이야기라고 하면 뭔가 좀 낯선 사람 어른한테 이야기하는 느낌이잖아요.
네.
근데 영어 원작 제목이 Story of Your Life고 그리고 그 원작은 엄마가 딸한테 하는 이야기거든요.
Oh, so 당신 feels very weird,
네,
distant.
네, 그러니까 내 딸한테 들려주는 그 너의 인생의 이야기라는 제목이 그 당신 인생의 그 이야기로 한국 소설 이름을 그렇게 바꿨어요.
조금 아쉽네요.
네. 그렇죠. 좀 이상했어요. 아무튼 죄송합니다. 다시 그 헤일 메리
It's
돌아가서.
okay. It's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. So I guess maybe we can go around on this one. Like, what was your favorite thing about the story? Let's go into spoilers now. So from this point on, we can talk about anything.
좋아요.
And we've maybe spoiled a tiny bit, but let's go into it. So what was your favorite thing about the movie, Didi?
저는 미술이었어요. 그냥 아이맥스로 볼 걸 후회했어요. 그 우주가 되게 예쁘게 나와가지고 좋았고, 근데 그 헤일 메리가 한국에서 평점 리뷰가 엄청 좋거든요. 지금 뭐 유튜버들이 진짜 재밌다, 뭐 올해 나온 영화 중에 제일 재밌다 하고, 저는 그런 추천을 받고 보러 갔어요. 아무것도 모르고 그냥 라이언 고슬링 우주 이것만 알고 갔는데 초반에는 재밌는 거예요. 처음 시작할 때는 재밌다가 갑자기 로키 나올 때 외계인이 나오네? 부터 살짝 저는 실망이었어요. 그러니까 진지한 인터스텔라 같은 SF를 생각했는데 그것보다는 좀 더 가볍게 보는 영화더라고요.
I see.
그래서 기대랑 좀 달랐던 것 같아요. 기대가 너무 컸는데 막상 보니까 미술은 좋았는데 스토리나 이런 거는 저는 개인적으로 그렇게 좋진 않았던 것 같아요. 재밌긴 했는데
Okay.
다들 엄청 좋았어요.
카트리나는
the story.
어떤가요? 네.
Yeah, I love the story. I mean, I've read the book. I don't know how many times. Yeah, but I went into it knowing nothing about the story. I hadn't heard anyone else talking about the book. I just knew about the author because I'd read his previous book and then seen The Martian. So I went into it knowing that I typically like things by this author, but not having any idea what it was. I think my favorite thing about the book is how, like, the science is so complicated, and even though I don't really know any of these things, it's written in a way that makes it feel like I understand. And so it'll be like, it'll explain something very technical, like how a planet gets a magnetic field, for example. So it'll say, oh, it has to have this has to happen. You have to have the iron core of the planet that's so hot that it melts. Like, that has to be. And then the sun, it has to be close enough to the sun so that it gets inside the magnetic field of the sun. And then the planet has to be spinning. And when all three of these things work, then you get a magnetic field. And so he'll explain it, and it'll feel like technical and complicated, but then he'll end by saying, and that's why compasses work. And it's like, it's always connecting this complicated sort of technical feels very hard, difficult to understand, with things in the real world that are very easy to understand, always connecting it. So I really liked how he did that.
그 표현 방법이 특히 마음에 들었던 부분이네요.
Yeah. Like,
그 표현
what part-
방법, 그 설명하는 방법.
Yeah, he's really, really good at that.
아니 그러면 그 스토리가 좋았던 사람은 없는 건가요?
Oh, I love the story as well. I mean, a good story is a good story, but sometimes the way a story is told is very unique. And I feel like that's something, being able to use all this complicated science and make it feel easy and sort of approachable and friendly. I think that's something that this author does really, really well.
네, 제 경우도 곰곰이 생각을 해보니까 마션이나 헤일메리나 그 소재는 되게 막 일반인이 이해하기 어려운 과학인데 그 줄거리 자체는 되게 단순하더라고요. 그리고 마션도 팀이 화성에 갔다가 나만 빼고 다 돌아가서 어떻게 살아남아서 지구에 돌아가는 이야기. 이거 끝이잖아요. 그 헤일메리도 그 지구를 구하기 위해 우주로 나갔다가 혼자 남았는데 외계인을 만나서 친구가 되고 그 문제를 해결하는 이야기잖아요.
Yeah.
일단 저는 그래서 뭔가 이제 현대인들의 스트레스 요소 그런 게 좀 없는 것 같아서 좋았어요. 막 이상한 사람, 소시오패스 같은 사람한테 막 시달리는 현실 스트레스 이런 거를 영화 드라마에서 못 느끼고 느끼나? 그 스트라트한테서 느끼나? 그 지구에 있는 사람들한테서
배신하는 사람,
예,
이기는
배신
사람.
예. 그 이야기 나중에 더 하고요. 아무튼 그 되게 단순하고 그 아름다운 이야기라서 좋았고요. 그리고 그 영화가 그러니까 생각해볼 여지가 있긴 한데 악당이 없는 영화 같아요.
Yeah.
What is Akdang? Sorry, that it's not ringing a bell with me. What is
악당 그 배트맨의 조커 같은 거.
Oh, okay. Like a rivalry, like villain and hero versus each other.
네네네네네.
I see. Okay.
쓰러뜨려야 할 적이 없는 거죠.
The villain is the microscopic entity that's eating the sun, basically.
Right.
그렇죠, 그렇죠.
Yeah.
근데 이제 그거는 막 나쁜 마음을 가지고 막 하는 그런 악당은 아니잖아요.
I
Right.
see. There's no arch nemesis. Like not visually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
그건 그렇죠. 예. 그러니까 그냥 딱 미션만 있는 거죠.
Right.
그래서 저는 그런 스토리가 의외로 좋은 것 같고 또 되게 사랑을 많이 받는 류의 이야기인 것 같아요. 마션도 그렇고 헤이메리도 그렇고 아예 다른 장르로 그 인셉션 영화 있잖아요.
네.
인셉션도 제가 그 영화를 보고 나서 되게 좋아했는데 뭔가 이상한 느낌을 되게 받았거든요. 그 영화도 그 쓰러뜨려야 할 악당이 없어요. 미션이 있을 뿐이죠.
There are people that they have conflicts with in the movie, like they literally have struggles and fights with, but not like a specific one person. Yeah.
그러니까요. 그냥 망상 그 꿈속이잖아요.
Right.
그래서 되게 재밌다고 생각을 했고 그 무엇보다 저는 그 로키와의 우정이 저 너무 좋았습니다.
Yeah.
네. 아무튼 그 지프는 어떤 부분이 특히 좋았나요?
Yeah, so my favorite thing about the story, I feel like it's not in the movie, it's more in the book, is there's some like sort of quiet spaces in the book where Grace and Rocky are having a conversation. Like Grace will have like a question about something. So one example is he says like, why is it only us two here at this star trying to solve this problem? And why not just me and why not just you? Why is there actually two of us? And so, Rocky is like, well, I've been thinking about that too, and I have some ideas why. Like maybe it's because of this, or maybe it's because of that. And they're sort of having a discussion with each other, like trying to figure out. It's not like a plot hole, but it's like a bigger like plot question that the reader might have. Like, yeah, why is that? This is a weird coincidence. But then they have like a reasonable discussion and explanation for it that. It's like a little bit philosophical and it's a little bit scientific, but it sort of fills that gap where it feels satisfying. Like you're like, oh, I feel like that answer has been made now, and it really it makes the quieter parts of the story like it makes them feel like very alive and very interesting. And it also shows like how those two characters are kind of growing together and like yeah, the other part of that, like when those conversations come up in the book, is that not just the way that they speak, but the way that they think are very different from each other. Like Grace and Rocky have just completely different brain structures, and they have different things that they're good at and that they're bad at in terms of like the way that they think about things. And so it goes a lot into what is Rocky's thought process and like how does Rocky think and how is he good at things. And so they sort of like play off each other's strengths and weaknesses in conversation and when trying to solve this problem. And I really like those parts of the book. And they do it a little bit in the movie, but it's much more emphasized in the book.
제가 이해한 게 맞는지 확인이 필요한데, 그러니까 그 책에 그 그레이스랑 로키가 왜 우리 둘만 여기에 있을까에 대해 이야기를 한다는 말이에요?
Yeah, exactly.
책도 한번 읽어봐야 되겠다.
Yeah, for people who liked the movie, I would recommend the book. Like, go read it because you can think of it as like a companion to the movie where it has like a bunch of additional things that like add to the story. I don't think it's necessary. Like, if you liked the movie and you don't want to read the book, that's fine. I think you can just enjoy it that way. But there's just a lot of stuff that it goes deeper into that I think are really interesting. And if they had put that in the movie would be too slow and long. Like, I don't think it needs it in the movie, but it's cool stuff. Yeah.
혹시 그 지프가 아까 얘기한 그 로키랑 그레이스가 왜 둘이만 왜 우리 둘인지에 대한 대화랑 어떻게 다른 사고 구조로 가진 둘이 잘 해나가는지 혹시 그 책으로 글자 책으로 읽은 카트리나는 좀 더 설명해 주고 싶은 게 있나요?
Yeah, go ahead, Katrina. You can explain it.
There are actually quite a few scenes like that are a little bit philosophical, where they're thinking about how is it that, for example, Grace and Rocky, they're almost about the same intelligence level. Like, you could imagine that maybe Grace would be super, super stupid compared to Rocky or the other way around. And Rocky is smarter than Grace in some ways. Like, he has a phenomenal, very, very good memory. Like, he hears things once and he never forgets it. And Grace is forgetting things all the time and needs to use the computer. But roughly, their intelligence is about the same. And so they have a conversation about why is that? Or they have a conversation about how is it that they hear in the same range? Like, the frequencies that Grace hears, that humans hear, how is it that Rocky also hears in the same frequency range? And Rocky has better hearing, so hears lower and higher, but that there's overlap. And so they have a philosophical, technical, sort of historical, scientific, maybe, conversation about why that might be.
디디님은 이런 얘기 들으면 책을 한번 읽어보고 싶은 생각이 드십니까?
그러니까 영화를 되게 재밌게 본 사람이면 책을 읽으면 좀 더 보너스 컷 보는 느낌으로 볼 수 있을 것 같네요.
좋아요. 저는 아까 지프가 해준 이야기 들으면서 내가 이해한 게 맞다면 이 이야기는 인생과 사랑에 관한 이야기구나 이런 생각이 들었습니다. 왜냐하면은
Right.
둘이서 계속 의미를 찾는다고 했잖아요. 왜 우리 둘일까? 다른 사람들도 아니고 왜 3명도 4명도 아니고 왜 우리 둘이 여기에 있는 걸까? 근데 사실 거기에 목적이나 이유가 없잖아요. 그냥 어쩌다 보니까 그냥 둘이 있는 거지. 네, 근데 여기서 왜 우리 둘이인지, 왜 우리 둘이어야만 하는지 이걸 계속 막 의미를 만들잖아요. 그리고 그 과정에서 그렇게 하면서 완전히 다른 두 존재가 그 빌딩업을 해나가는 거 관계를 발전해 나가고 그게 그냥 인간 남녀의 그 형식을 떠난 진짜 완전히 다른 두 존재로 보여주는 그 사랑의 과정의 모습?
Yep.
저는 그런 생각이 드네요.
Yeah.
그래서
I
Wait.
just remembered something. So
Yeah.
a long time ago, before I read The Martian, I read this short story called The Egg, which I really, really loved. It's like a very, very short story. Somebody recommended it to me. And it's kind of like you're talking about. It's just two people having a conversation. That's actually written by Andy Weir also. I just searched it just to check, and I was like, oh, this explains like not only why I like that type of storytelling, but like why he's so good at that. Is The Egg is like that's only the story is The Egg, and then he kind of puts that in his other books, I think, or similar concepts to that. So I definitely recommend The Egg if you we'll put a link in the description. There's a Korean translation of it too that I've listened to. So.
제가 얘기한 그 말은 카트리나는 동의하시나요 혹시?
Oh, sure.
아닌가요?
So it's when you see the movie, it can feel like very much just an action adventure in space. Like there's the Earth is gonna die. Somebody needs to save the Earth. Somebody goes and saves the Earth. The end, basically. But in the book, all of these little interludes and these conversations, it makes it a story that's a lot more about what it means to be human. What's the meaning of life? Why am I here? Why are we here together? Like friendship, love, much deeper and more fuzzy, I guess, topics.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, there is action scenes in the book. I would say it's a smaller part of the book compared to like the movie. That's a higher percentage of the movie. But yeah, the action scenes are really cool too. I like they that's the part of the compared to the book. I think the movie did better. Is the action scenes are just really really great. So.
그러니까 영화에서 저는 메인 메시지라고 하는 게 인간들끼리도 서로 그 약간 이기적인 선택을 하잖아요. 이기적이라고 해야 되나? 뭔가 다수를 위한, 많은 사람들을 위한 선택을 하고 그러는데 우주에서 만난 전혀 다른 인종끼리 막 서로를 더 위하고 그 생각하고 하는 걸 보여주면서 뭐 그런 우정, 뭐 전혀 다른 존재의 사랑 이런 게 메인 그 콘텐츠였던 것 같은데 책에서는 이 둘의 관계가 좀 더 그렇게 깊어질 수 있었던 이유가 나오는 것 같네요. 들어보니까. 대화도 그렇고.
And in the book, I mean, his biggest weakness, Grace's biggest weakness is that he is a coward. He's scared. He is like that's a really important part of the movie, no, of the book, because it makes it so much more impactful when he decides to go save Rocky's solar system. And I don't know how did they do that in the movie? Was that clear?
네, 영화에서도 그 부분이 되게 중요하게 나와요. 그 기억을 되찾으면서 이제 점점 그레이스가 우주로 보내지기 전까지 되게 나는 용기가 없는 사람이에요. 저는 겁쟁이에요. 저는 안 돼요. 막 이런 장면이 되게 많이 나오거든요.
Okay, good. Yeah.
네, 그리고 또 그 우주에서 그 미션을 하면서 그 로키가 그레이스한테 용기가 있다고 자주 말을 해줘요. 그래서 그 지구에서는 저는 용기가 없어요라고 스스로 말하던 그 그레이스가 우주에서 그 로키한테 너는 용감해라는 얘기를 계속 듣게 되는 모습이죠. 그리고
Yeah, they play it up a little bit with physical comedy too, where like Grace, like Ryan Gosling doing the acting, like he's like really frightened by things sometimes, like literally like cringes or like runs away or like hides his face or like all that kind of stuff. He does a lot of like physical acting to show that he's like just scared of stuff or like whenever things are like new, he's just like a complete coward. And yeah, in the flashbacks too, like at a more like I don't know what we would say, like his social situations too. He's just like always nervous around people and stuff like that. And they show that pretty well in the movie. I think it's not exactly the same as in the book, but they try to push that concept through so that you understand that. Yeah.
근데 너무 무서울 것 같지 않아요? 그런 상황이 오면 누구나 그렇게 될 것 같아요. 어때요? 만약에 나한테 그런 문제를 해결할 능력이 있어. 그러면 그렇게 갈 수 있을까요? 죽을 건데.
Right.
죽을 각오를 하고.
Yeah. I think they do a really good job of making him relatable, of being like, it's not that, oh, he's a coward and we are all better than him. It's like, no, he's a coward and we are all him. Like,
Yeah. We can relate to that feeling. Yeah, definitely.
카트리나랑 지프는 보내면 우주선 타시겠습니까?
I think so. Yeah.
오.
와.
I don't think I would.
I don't know. Yeah, I understand the like being afraid of things and being a coward, but I don't know. I feel like just as a personal thing, I just don't have any fear of death, and it's probably a bad thing, not a good thing. Like I just never worry or think about it at all, and like I'll just do what needs to get done. Like that's just me. That's my personality.
태용 쌤은요? 가세요?
저는 생각할 시간이 좀 필요해요.
안 된대요.
You have to
당장
think
내일
about
가야 된대요.
아 스트로트 같은 말을 하시네.
당장 내일.
근데 그러면은 가야 하지 않을까요? 그러니까 가야 한다고 하면은 가기 싫어도 가야 하지 않을까요? 예. 예. 가야.
근데 영화에서 그레이스가 지구에 뭔가 뭐라고 하지? 미련? 내가 얘네들을 놓고 가네? 하는 것들이 많이 없었어요. 뭐 아이도
맞아요.
없었고 가족도 안 나오고 여자친구도 안 나오고 그러니까 좀 더 덜 슬펐을 것 같아요. 덜 슬픈 상황이었던 것 같아요.
그래서 마지막에 그레이스가 한 선택이 좀 더 이해가 될 수 있죠.
맞아요.
지구에 아쉬울 게 없으니까.
맞아.
예.
I see. Yeah, he's not leaving any family behind, so it's maybe easier for him to make that decision.
Yeah, in the book, he says that his closest friend was like Dmitri, the Russian he drank vodka with, one of the scientists during the preparation for it's like he had really no friends, basically.
아 근데 그리고 아까 전에 디디님이 지구에 있는 사람들은 막 배신을 하고 막 그러는데 우주에 있는 외계인은 막 서로 잘 통하고 그런 얘기하면서 또 생각났던 장면이 저는 약간 코끝이 찡해지고 눈물이 고이는 장면이 한 두어 개 있었는데요. 처음 지구에서 스트라트가 회의실에서 그레이스한테 너밖에 없다, 너가 우주에 가야 된다 이렇게 할 때 그레이스가 막 이렇게 하면서 생각할 시간이 필요해요 이렇게 하거든요. 근데 그때 인간인 스트라트는 3시간 있어요 이렇게 얘기해요. 3시간 줄게요 이렇게. 근데 마지막에 그레이스가 로키네 종족이 마련해준 미니 지구 거기서 그레이스랑 로키가 산책을 하면서 이제 그레이스한테 로키가 너 지구로 갈 우주선이 준비됐다, 고쳐졌다 이렇게 얘기를 했는데 그때 그레이스가 좀 더 생각해 볼게 이렇게 얘기를 하거든요. 근데 그때 되게 반가운 듯이 오래오래 생각해도 돼 이렇게 얘기를 해요.
안 가고 싶을 것 같아요.
예. 3시간 줄게요 이거랑 오래오래 생각해도 돼요 이렇게 하는 거랑 너무 차이가 나잖아요.
맞아.
그래서 그때 약간 좀 찡했어요. 예. 가기 힘들 것 같다 이렇게.
I see.
그렇습니다.
Yeah.
So I have a stupid question.
Go ahead.
Did they name the planet in the movie?
Yes. Yeah. They,
네, 네,
they
네.
named it Adrian. Yeah.
They named it Adrian.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a reason why that's obvious to people. Why it's
Oh,
Adrian.
so that's
Why is it
American culture.
Adrian?
Do you not know this as
have no
Koreans? I'm
idea.
curious.
우린 몰라요. 디디님이랑
왜요?
저는 전혀 그러니까
와우.
저도 영화 볼 때 갑자기 그레이스가
Yeah.
그냥 갑자기 에이드리안 이렇게 하거든요.
Yeah. Okay. So this is obvious to me. Do you know, Didi?
아니요, 모르겠어요.
I don't think it's a stupid question because it's very culturally related. But so the movie Rocky, which is very, very famous movie about a boxer, it's Sylvester Stallone. His girlfriend or his wife is Adrian. Like that's the girl that he talks about all the time through the whole movie and like I guess the whole series of movies. And like there's famous scene in the movie where at the end he's like Adrian. Like so at the end of the boxing match he's just yelling her name over and over. Adrian. So that's where that comes from. Yeah. But I actually when I think of Rocky, the first thing I always think of is Rocky and Bullwinkle. I don't know if you are familiar with those characters. There's this cartoon from when I was young called Rocky and Bullwinkle. Rocky is a squirrel and Bullwinkle is a moose, and they're like these cartoon friends. And so I don't know if it was I think I was like half awake or it was like a dream or something. But I had a dream that in the movie, instead of calling the planet Adrian, they called it Bullwinkle. Because Rocky was owned by a different movie studio and they didn't have the rights to use that. And so they just had to change it. But anyway, that was just my weird. Yeah. So
아는
that's where
만큼
Adrian comes from.
보이는구나.
I see.
몰랐네요. 그런 장면 많을 것 같아요. 미국 그 유머 되게 많이 하잖아요. 조크를 되게 많이
Yeah, it's kind of a
하는데
joke. Yeah.
네, 한 10개 중 한국인들 8개 이해하지 않았을까 해요. 그 영화 전체에서.
What other jokes do you think you didn't understand, if you know?
기억은 안 나요.
Okay,
알 방법이 전혀 없죠. 저는 갑자기 그냥 뭐 고민도 안 하고 자신 있게 에이드리언 이러길래 왜 네.
In the book, Rocky suggests the name of his partner, his mate, and so, and then in the book, Grace is like, "Oh, and therefore I'm calling it Adrian," and I was like, "There's so." I don't know. I had no idea where it came from. It just felt like it came out of nowhere and it didn't get explained.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an American cultural thing. And, he's an American writer, so maybe he just assumes that everybody knows about Rocky and Adrian, but maybe it's not as worldwide as he thinks, or I think. So yeah. Okay, there's one thing about the movie that compared to the book that I want to complain about. It's a complaint. This is a real complaint, not a small complaint. But I don't think it ruins the movie. It's just something I gotta say is one thing that's done really, really well in the book is he's lost his memory, and so he'll have some sort of problem where he'll be like working on solving the problem, and then he'll be like, oh no, I don't remember what this is. Like, what is this? Or what do I know about this? And then at that moment, it'll cut back to the flashback or, the previous memory scene where he's like in the classroom or he's having a conversation with Strat or, some other scientist. And like, it'll be a long scene where it's like, going through this memory. And by the end of that memory scene, he remembers the thing that he needs. He's like, oh yeah, this is that. Or like, now I know what I need. And then it goes back to the modern, like the current time where he immediately uses or puts into effect the thing that he just remembered. He's like, I just remembered this, so now I can do this. And then he'll, go for a while and then he'll have some problem. He'll be like, oh no, I don't remember. And then he'll go back to the memory scene, he'll remember something and be like, oh, I can use that now. In the movie, they don't do that. Like, in the movie, they go from current time to past and current past. And like, you learn about his past and you learn about the things he's remembering, but he doesn't ever really directly use the things that he remembers in the movie in the same way. Like, it's not narratively as like tied together between those two. That's my one complaint about the movie is I feel like the book does that really well and the movie doesn't really do that. So.
뭔가 기억을 찾아가는 과정에서 그게 잘 연결이 됐나 봐요. 현재랑
Yeah, yeah.
과거가 잘 연결이 됐는데 영화에서는 없었구나.
Yeah.
맞아. 그냥 점점 알아가는 느낌? 그 사람이 날 배신했네? 그냥 그렇게 알아가는 것만 보여줬던 것 같아요. 그걸로 뭘 활용하고 그런 건 없었던 것 같아요.
Right. Yeah, it's more of just like a pacing device within the movie so that nothing really feels boring and that you learn more about the character, but it doesn't really tie directly into the story in some ways. So, yeah.
맞아요. 되게 뜬금없이 확 과거에서 현재로 바뀌고 갑자기 현재에서 과거로 바뀌고 그랬던 것 같아요.
Yeah, in the book, that's how he finally remembers his name. Like you get a scene where he's in the classroom and the FBI people or Strat or someone comes and says, Ryland Grace? And he answers, yes. And so now he knows his name and he can unlock the door or whatever it is.
You're just reminding me like that also, you know, the AI computer at the beginning, they explain that a lot in the book about like, you know, where this robot came from and why it's there and stuff like that.
And why it's not an AI, why it's so dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the movie, like it's just kind of there in the first wake up sequence, and it doesn't really go back to it much like after that point. So yeah, I don't know. It's all compressed. Like it's hard to fit everything in. Oh yeah, the one other thing that I was kind of unsure about. So watching the movie, the sort of at the end, near the end, where they've breeded the amoeba. And then the amoeba escapes, and he has to sort of like recontain it and then go find Rocky. I feel like that part of the movie is so short and like so compressed. Like it doesn't really. I feel like it's really hard to understand what's even happening in the movie, where in the book it's very well explained. I was kind of curious, like, was that easy? Were you able to understand what was happening there in those scenes, having only seen the movie?
잘 모르겠어요. 그냥 탈출했나 보다 이러면서 봤던 것 같은데. 탈출했구나. 그냥 이렇게 봤어요.
근데 사실 저도 잘 그때 이해를 못했거든요. 그게 그래서 그레이스 우주선만 문제가 생겨서 그레이스가 로키한테 도움을 청하러 가는 건지, 아니면 그 둘 다의 우주선에 문제가 생겨서 그냥 로키한테 경고해 주려고 그레이스가 지구를 포기하고 간 건지 그게 헷갈렸거든요.
Oh, shall I explain?
Yeah, please.
네.
Okay, so they had the thing that is eating the sun, the astrophage,
네.
astrophage, and then they have the amoeba.
아스트로파지.
Yeah, astrophage.
That sounds like pants.
It
Go ahead.
does. So and then you have the amoeba that eats the astrophage. The amoeba would die when exposed to nitrogen, so nitrogen gas. And so that's the gas, I don't know what it's called in Korean, it's the gas that is like 80% of our air. And it's also, it's like 3% of Venus's air, 3.5% maybe on Venus. And it's 8.5% on Rocky's, the planet where the astrophage breeds in Rocky's solar system. So, but even a little bit of nitrogen kills the amoeba. Is this clear in the movie?
It doesn't explain it at all, so keep going.
Oh wow! Okay,
Yeah.
This is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what they have to do is they have to breed. They have to have the amoeba make more amoebas in the presence of just a tiny bit of nitrogen gas. Because then, if there's some that survive. Now, the surviving ones can have babies that will tolerate nitrogen. And so they do this over and over and over again. They add a little bit more nitrogen, and the survivors, they add, more nitrogen and they breed. They make more of the amoebas, and so the weak ones die, and the ones that survive with nitrogen, they get used in the next like generation until they have an amoeba that can tolerate enough nitrogen that it will survive on the planet in Rocky's solar system. So 8.5% or whatever. Because if it tolerates 8.5%, it will also tolerate 3%, which is what it is on Venus. So it's like they just had to breed it enough to survive in the environment where it has to save the two solar systems.
Right.
So that's the basic thing.
They're like evolving their own version of the amoeba that can survive inside nitrogen.
Yeah.
In the movie, how they show it is just they need to make more of it. They don't explain that they're evolving it. They're just like, we just need a lot of this stuff. So they totally cut that part out. So keep going.
It's kind of complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, so they spent all this time making a version of this amoeba that can survive in the environment that it needs to. It turns out, and so the thing that they had 10 of these boxes, and Rocky made the boxes with his magical, really strong steel. And so when he's sleeping and wakes up because of the amoeba having escaped, he has to figure out, where did it escape from? Did it come from the fuel lines? Did it come from the boxes? Did it come from the beetles where he's going to ship them back to Earth? And he finally figures out that it's these boxes. And what happened was that the amoeba discovered, they're very, very small. And so they sometimes would go into the walls of the steel.
Like
They
go
figured
through the
out,
cracks of the walls. They could kind of go in.
they go into the walls and be protected from nitrogen. So if they're in the wall, the nitrogen can't reach and it can't kill them. So they evolved both to tolerate more nitrogen, but also to know how to go into the walls of this material. Rocky's ship is made 100% of this material. And so on Rocky's ship, the amoebas go through the boxes and eat all the fuel in the whole ship. So Rocky is dead in the water. Like, his ship can't go anywhere. It's just stopped. And he sees, like, every day he uses his scope to go see if he can see the engines of Rocky's ship. And at some point he can't see the engines anymore. And so he realizes the amoeba got loose on his ship and ate all his fuel. And so if he doesn't turn around, like, he can still go to the Earth. But if he does go to the Earth, Rocky is going to die in space and his whole civilization is going to die. And so that's where he has to make a decision. Do I send the ones that in the steel box back to the Earth so the Earth can survive, and then go take my fuel, because he has enough fuel in his ship to go to Rocky's.
Because he fixes the leak at a certain point.
He fixes the leak before it gets to the fuel. And so he takes Rocky into his own ship, and they go to Rocky's home planet.
그래서 그거를 그레이스가 지구로 가는 길에 자다가 깨서 왜 그렇게 됐는지 한 5초 정도 설명하고 바로 로키한테 가요.
Exactly.
맞아.
예.
안
In the book
되는데
it's a
로키 집
long-
못 가는데 하면서 가죠.
예. 근데 필요한 말들은 다 한 것 같거든요. 압축하고 압축해서
맞아.
예, 로키가 만든 상자에서 이게 샜는데 나는 괜찮지만 로키 우주선은 안 될 거예요. 그냥 이렇게
맞아.
진짜 간결하게 설명하고 바로 딱 갑니다. 그 비틀즈 이름으로 된 상자들 핑핑핑 보내고
와.
그리고 가서 그래서 로키네 우주선에 돌아가서 그레이스가 되게 걱정하는 마음으로 벽을 두드리거든요. 그때 막 긴장되는 이유가 그것 때문이었구나.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't know if he was dead or not at that point. But yeah, in the movie, yeah, it goes by so quick that like yeah, it's. I felt like it would be confusing if you hadn't read the book, but at the same time, like it's close enough to the end of the movie. Like you've been sitting there for an hour and a half. I think at a certain point you're just kind of like just the shock and awe of the movie. You're just accepted as like, okay, things are happening, and like you relate more with the emotional part of that moment rather than like what is actually happening. So it just kind of works. But yeah.
Because in the book, it takes several days, like to find the leak and to stop the leak and figure out and find the ship, like even find Rocky's ship because like.
He can't so Rocky's ship is like black and space is black. So when he goes there, he's somewhere in here in a very, very large range. I have to go find him. And so he's like moving around kind of looking for him. And so there's all this stuff. Yeah, it's different.
하긴 금방 찾긴 했어요. 그냥
맞아요.
안 돼.
바로.
맞아 찾았다.
예,
이렇게
바로
금방
그냥.
찾았어요.
그 로킨의 우주선까지 며칠 걸린다는 건 나와요. 예, 이 계산하면 뭐
거리가.
며칠 정도 따라잡는데 며칠 걸릴 거예요. 그래서 그 시간이 지나가는 장면은 나와요.
Okay. But still, like in the book, he goes close enough to where he can like spin his spaceship every degree until he's able to spot it and then go closer and then do it again until he finds it. Because it's like, it explains the problem really well.
제 생각에 이 이야기는 사랑에 대한 이야기가 맞는 것 같습니다.
맞네.
아무튼 참고로 말씀드리자면 카트리나는 그레이스와 같은 분자 생물학을 전공한 사람입니다.
This is true.
진짜요?
네.
But I wasn't very good at it. I can't save the earth.
저는 카트리나한테 들어서 몰로큘러 바이올로지를 알고 있었잖아요. 그래서 영화에서 그레이스한테 처음에 막 사람들이 스트라트가 와서 분자 생물학 전공하셨죠? 이렇게 할 때 저거 이렇게 했었어요.
와,
Did that
근데
part
되게-
feel realistic?
맞아.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it felt all the science feels very realistic. Like when he's doing experiments and when he's talking about how to figure things out. And also one of the things I think he does really well, the author, is the scientists they often say, I don't know, or I have no idea, or like, oh my gosh, did you figure it out? It's been bugging me so much. Like this willingness to not know, I think, is done really well.
What were you going to say, Didi? I interrupted. Sorry.
아니에요. 그냥 카트리나가 되게 다른 일을 하고 있네라고 생각했어요. 분자 생물학 공부했다가 프로그래머 하셨어가지고 되게 다른 거 하신다 생각했어요.
This is true.
관심사가 바뀐 거예요?
No, when I started university, I just didn't know what I wanted. And so I just thought, I need something that is going to give me a job after. And it needs to be something with science so that it's like real. Because I just wanted to be able to do something. I didn't have to be amazing. I didn't have to save the world. I just had it to be an okay scientist. And then I could have a job. But then while I was at university, I learned how to program and it was very fun. So I changed.
그것은 하프앤하프의 카트리나와 한 일 구하기 편을 보시면 좀 더 자세한 이야기를 들을 수 있습니다.
That's
It's all
right.
explained
Yeah, we did our
there.
episode.
네,
좋습니다.
지금 저희가 한 1시간 20분 정도 얘기했는데 네, 다들 사정이 있어가지고 좀 이번 시간은 적당히 여기서 끝낼까 싶은데 괜찮으실까요?
Yeah, I think we've covered it pretty
재밌었어요.
well.
네, 다양한
Yes,
이야기를 한 것 같은데 혹시 이 프로젝트 헤일메리에 대해서 이 얘기만은 하고 싶다 하는 게 남아 있는 사람은 마지막으로 하십시오. 할 거 있나요?
그 여자 과학자분 노래를 굉장히 잘하시더라고요. 노래하는
맞다
장면.
맞다.
What? Sorry, I'm not following that.
여
What?
여자 과학자분이
Strat? Yeah. Okay.
But she's
let's
not
start.
a. She,
Oh,
she's
she does
not a-
karaoke in the
네,
movie.
맞아요.
Right.
노래를 잘해요.
Yeah, she's a good singer in that movie. Yeah.
Cool. She's not a scientist though. She studied history. She's just the boss. She's
Yeah.
very good
Wow.
at being the boss.
아, 하긴 그러니까 못 갔겠죠. 그 여성분은. 과학자였으면 직접 갔겠지.
She probably would. Yeah.
그구나. 삼체 웨이드 같은 캐릭터구나. 아무도
What does that
모르나요?
mean?
맞아요. 그건 뭐예요?
삼체 안 보셨어요, 다들? 아, 그럼
삼체가
모르겠다.
뭐예요?
Oh.
산티 three body problem.
Three body problem.
Oh, I read the books. I didn't see them.
산티의 웨이드 같은 역할 아니에요?
Okay, yeah.
네, 과학은 모르는데 어쨌든 프로젝트 리더.
Yeah.
맞아.
아무튼 예, 그런.
네.
그래서 노래 가라오케에서 노래 불러가지고 좀 캐릭터가 좀 더 입체적으로 보이는 효과가 있긴 했어요.
Yeah.
맞아.
네, 그냥 뭐
In the
피도
book, there's a
눈물도 없는.
Norwegian,
아,
and the Norwegian and Grace, they really don't like each other. They don't get along at all.
아니 사실은 그 영화에서 스트라트를 보면서요, 되게 똑똑하잖아요. 그 뭔가 좀 유능해 보이고, 그 좀 약간 미안한 얘기인데 그 스트라트를 보면서 어딘가에 있는 평행 우주의 그 뒤틀린 카트리나 느낌을 받았어요.
아, 비슷해 보였어요?
아, 그냥 뭔가 그냥 뭔가 그 느낌이 있었어요. 약간 좀 근데 카트리나 영화를 안 봐가지고 영화 보면 무슨 느낌인지 알 수도 있는데.
I think she's similar in both the book and the movie, but yeah, she's
아,
very, very direct. Like knows exactly what she wants, and she's just gonna tell you to do it and not ask.
예. 근데 이제 그 그레이스 배신하기 전에 좀 친절해 보일 때,
Yeah.
그때 뭔가 좀 그런
But I
느낌.
actually, I like her character. I really
아,
do.
그래요?
Like even though she betrays Grace, she does it for like in her mind, it's the right thing to do.
네.
Her goal is save humanity, and
Yeah.
she
그쵸.
thinks that's the way to do it.
And she
맞아요.
expects, like, if humanity is saved, she'll spend the rest of her life in prison because she's stepped on so many toes and made so many people mad that,
맞아.
yeah.
그 스트라트 목 뒤에 문신이 있다고 하던데. 저도 영화 볼 때는 몰랐는데요. 그 다 막 네이버 블로그 후기 이런 데서 봤거든요. 근데 그 목 뒤에 있는 문신이 그거래요. 그 석방을 못 하고 계속 감옥에 있어야 하는 그 죄수들이 받는 문신이라고 하더라고요.
그러니까
네,
그런 캐릭터죠. 되게 정말 보스의 일을 잘하는 사람인데 그런 말이 있잖아요. 왕관의 무게를 견뎌라 라는 말이 있는데 정말 책임을 지는 거죠. 그런 행동을 하면서 자기도 마음이 안 좋고 하지만 일을 제대로 처리하고 자기는 그 무거운 짐은 자기가 가지는 그런 캐릭터인 것 같아요.
그렇습니다. 아무튼 예, 저의 감상이었고요. 그 그레이스가 억지로 그렇게 인류를 구하기 위해 보내진 그 상황도 되게 그 에피소드 한 편 이야기할 수 있는 주제거든요. 사실 그렇잖아요. 인류를 구하기 위해 한 명 강제로 그렇게 기절시켜서 우주에 자살 미션 보내도 되는지, 예, 그것도 한참 토론을 할 수 있는 주제인데 어쨌든 이번 시간은 이쯤에서 마무리를 합시다.
Yeah. Okay. Let's wrap up for real. Yeah.
네. 자, 그러면 이번 시간 짧게 어땠는지 그 감상을 얘기해 주시면 좋겠습니다. 일단 저는 정말 좋았고요. 찌푸부터 시작할까요?
Sure. So yeah, this has been a really interesting episode. You know, having four people discussing. We all have different perspectives, different things we like, and different ways we saw or experienced this story. Curious what other people think in the comments. Like if you have thoughts about it. I'm sure everybody has some opinion about the movie or the book, and I think it's really interesting to hear different opinions and discuss it. So yeah, let us know. And I'm Jeep. This has been Half and Half. Do you want to go next?
네, 저는 우선 영화 이야기도 재밌었지만 이렇게 영어랑 한국어 반반으로 얘기하는 경험이 처음인데 처음에는 걱정을 했거든요. 제가 알아들을 수 있을까? 보통은 영어 스위치를 켜고 영어로 얘기하고 한국어 스위치를 켜고 한국어로 얘기하잖아요. 이렇게 섞어서 하는 경험이 어떨까 걱정했는데 재밌었고 나름 잘 알아들은 것 같아서 좋은 이야기 할 수 있어서 좋은 경험이었던 것 같아요. 다음에 또 초대해 줄 수 있으면 초대해 주세요.
So it was super fun to talk to all of you. I'm so excited to meet Didi for the first time. So it was really great to chat a little bit. I feel like I have to apologize because I talk so much. And so I wish I could learn to say less and listen more so that people can hear the others more. But thank you very, very much. You've been listening to Half and Half. I'm Katrina.
네, 아니 저랑 치프가 얘기 제일 많이 했기 때문에 걱정하지 마시고요.
밸런스가 좋았어요.
괜찮았던 것 같습니다. 네, 그리고 이 디디님한테는 이 카트리나랑 이 치프가 진짜 대단한 사람들입니다. 제 옆에 있어서 뭐 그렇지 진짜 대단한 사람들이거든요. 쉽게 만날 수 없는.
영광입니다.
영광으로 생각하십시오.
감사합니다.
네네네. 그러면 제가 인사하고 끝낼게요. 지금까지 하프앤하프였습니다. 다음 시간에 또 유익하고 흥미로운 내용으로 돌아오겠습니다. 다음에 또 봐요.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.